for the delay. The June 26th meeting of the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability is called to order at 6:45 p.m. We will begin by calling the roll to establish a quorum. Commissioner Gottlieb.
Present.
Commissioner Driver is present. Commissioner Minor.
Present.
Commissioner Piemonte. Commissioner Ruby Navarrijo.
Present.
Commissioner Terry. Commissioner Wortham. With 4 out of 7 members of the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability present, we have a quorum and can conduct the commission's business. The next item of business is public comment. If you would like to share something related to the commission's work on public safety and accountability, you have a few options. You can speak at a public meeting. You can also submit public comment in writing by emailing it to communitycommissionpubliccomment@cityofchicago.org, or you can bring a copy of your comment to one of the commission's public meetings and give it to someone on the commission or someone on the commission staff. People who wanted to speak during public comment tonight were asked to submit their names in writing earlier. Names were then drawn at random by a member of the commission staff. Speakers will be called in the order in which their names are drawn. If your name is called to offer public comment, we ask you to approach the microphone and line up in the order in which your name is called. When it's your turn to speak, please say your name and then spell your name for the record and then offer your comments. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. We have allotted a total of 20 minutes for public comment. Our first speaker is Sully Peterson Quinn, who will be, and I don't want to butcher your name, but S. Gronkowicz Doran. I hope really? Thank you. That made me happy. And the third, and I believe maybe final speaker is Mike Pavillon.
Sorry, I'm so tall. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Sully Peterson Quinn. I'm a resident of Chicago's West Side, and I'm with the Grassroots Alliance for Police Accountability, or the GAPA Coalition. The GAPA Coalition is a diverse Chicago-based coalition united by a common demand for safer neighborhoods through equitable and just policing practices. We were formed in 2021 and worked as part of the ECPS coalition to draft the language for the ordinance that created the CCPSA Commission. In addition to the policy objectives that the CCPSA Commission has already expressed support for reforming in regards to low-level, non-public safety-related traffic violations and vehicle consent searches, the GAPA Coalition believes that it is essential to include a ban on pretext as an excuse for traffic stops as part of the CCPSA's negotiating position with consent decree partners. A ban on pretextual traffic stops needs to be clearly outlined in any proposal that intends to meaningfully address the concerns of our community partners. Pretextual traffic stops are racist and damage trust between the police and community. They are expensive, inefficient, and study after study has demonstrated that they do not meaningfully improve public safety. What they do impact is emergency response times to real public safety threats by diverting CPD's finite resources towards low-level traffic enforcement. The CCPSA has the opportunity to lead these negotiations from the strongest possible starting position. We hope to work with you in the months ahead as partners in our advocacy for a better system of policing in the city, one that strengthens trust and protects our neighbors. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service to the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. No, yes, you are? Okay, hi. It's not, I'm talking to you, so I'm glad you're here. Hi, thank you. Oh my. My name is S. Gronkowicz Doran. You got it perfectly. I live 2 blocks from here. And I'm addressing my remarks to Chief Navalis and also to Commander Hanrahan. And I do want to start by saying that I know there are a lot of people in this city who are in pain right now and grieving, and that there is specific grief in this room for the loss of Officer Crystal Rivera, who was a neighbor of this neighborhood. And my condolences go out to you and to everyone grieving her. But the goal of my remarks tonight is about a different cause of grief, which is that I want to make a request to all of you to stand with us and with your neighbors and the members of your communities against the federal law enforcement officers who are coming here to kidnap our people. And I understand that you're going to view these agents as your colleagues in law enforcement, and give them the benefit of the doubt. But they have been sent here to Chicago on an evil mission to capture as many people as they can without regard to our laws or our safety. In the first 6 months of this administration, they've been kidnapping US citizens. They've kidnapped fathers and mothers and innocent people trying to build a life. I understand that CPD is bound by the sanctuary city law and will not help, but we need more than that. We need for you to do more than not stop these people as they are coming into our communities in masks and unmarked vans and taking our people away. Someday, Trump will no longer be the president. This regime will be over, and there will be people who had lives in Chicago who have been ripped away. And I'm not asking an easy thing, but I am asking all of you to think about what you will feel on that day and which side of that fight you want to be on. And I ask you all to choose all of us and your neighbors here in Chicago and help us protect our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Avalon, P is in Paul, A, B is in Victor, I, L, O.
1 second.
Closer?
If you could just move the microphone up
Yeah.
so we can hear you better.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, Mike Pavalon, like I said. I've been covering the 17th, the 19th, and the 20th police councils for about 18 months. And one thing has jumped out at me, not that there aren't others. Who best communicates with communities? Is it the police officer who tries to build trust? Or is it the community members who already live there and they have the guts to go out from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. or whatever they choose in order to get to know the community better? And they are sometimes called peace givers, they sometimes called violence stoppers, and sometimes called just mentors who happen to be on the street. There's a lot of evidence out there that I've found in the last 18 months where the University of Chicago Crime Lab, PBS on Channel 11 did a documentary that was excellent approximately 3 months ago. And the Sun-Times did a full front page, third page expo of how well it was going with the mentors and the community members, as opposed to the police, who are much more difficult to gain trust because of their uniforms, because they're cops, period. So that seems to be an issue that is going to have to be worked out after the allocation. There's a lot of evidence regarding that. And the police officers or cops are better used, if they don't know the community already, to go to parks, to go to schools, to go to recreation spots, to go to churches, like with Father Flager, who's always asking for some kind of help. And that's where it's best for them to start. I don't know if that's going to create a conflict. I hope not. Or if it's going to be settled somehow that the community has the strength and the trust already at a higher degree than your average police officer. Parks are an issue also. And I've got to add on a second 30 seconds, Winamac Park is on the north side. And I figured, there's a big celebration on July 4th. And there was last year where over 2,000 people came to it. No fireworks. There's no fireworks there. That's the first I've heard in the city of Chicago. However, I thought, what's going to be relevant for this particular meeting? So I did some artificial intelligence research. There have been no violent, we call them an entity, or call it a violent, what do you call it? When you assault somebody and they get hurt or there's a gunshot. There has been no events like that in 10 years in Winnemac Park that have been reported. No incidents like that in 10 years. That's pretty damn good for a park. So that's July 4th, and it's happening again this year, and you are certainly invited to see that particular very unique park. And I made it.
Thank you.
You.
This concludes our public comment period. We're grateful to the speakers who offered their comments today. Commissioners Terry and Wortham are now present for the purposes of quorum. The next order of business is approval of the minutes. Before today's meeting, draft minutes of the commission's regular meeting held on May 29th was shared with all commissioners. Are there any corrections to the draft minutes that have been circulated? Hearing none, I now move to approve the minutes. Can I get a second? I've moved and it's been seconded by Commissioner Terry that the minutes from the May 29th meeting be approved. Is there any debate on the motion? Hearing none, we'll now move to a vote. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it and the motion. Commissioner Wortham is abstaining. The ayes have it and the motion passes. The minutes of the May 29th meeting are now approved. Our next order of business will be new business. The next item is the approval of a series of closed meetings. Section 2C3 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act allows the commission to meet in closed session to consider the following subjects: the selection of a person to fill a public office as defined in this act, including a vacancy in a public office when the public body is given the power to appoint under law or ordinance, or the discipline, performance, or removal of the occupant of public office when the public body is given the power to remove the occupant under law or ordinance. Section 2A of the Act authorizes the commission to take a vote to hold a series of closed meetings over the course of not more than 3 months from today, and only for the purposes cited under Section 2C3. Over the next few months, the commission may need to meet in closed session for reasons that are allowed under the Open Meetings Act, including discussions about appointments and filling vacancies. I now move to hold a series of closed meetings to take place for the maximum period allowable as authorized by Section 2C3 of the Open Meetings Act. Is there a second?
Second.
I've moved and it's been seconded by Commissioner Terry to hold a series of closed meetings to take place for the maximum period allowable as authorized by Section 2C3 of the Open Meetings Act. Is there any debate on the motion? Hearing none, we'll now move to a vote. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? The ayes have it and the motion carries. The commission is now authorized to hold a series of closed meetings to take place for the maximum time period allowable as authorized by Section 2C3 of the Open Meetings Act. As we enter the summer, it's important that the city knows what, if any, plans the department and the mayor have for keeping Chicago safe. CCPSA was made aware of a summer safety plan that the department and the mayor's office have developed. And they are here today to present on this plan. To present, I'd like to call on. Okay. Sorry, we're gonna actually switch the order. The person who was here to present from the mayor's office is actually running late. So we're gonna move on to a presentation from the Chicago Police Department regarding their First Amendment policies and their policies related to federal immigration and custom enforcement activities in Chicago. To present that, I'd like to call on Chief Angel Navales.
Before I start, I want to thank the commission for giving me the opportunity to come here and be with you guys today and talk about this very important policy. I also want to acknowledge that we have our immigrant and refugee liaisons here today. We have a table out in front which has information on this policy. It's in multiple language, and we will continue to make sure that we share that with the public. So thank you very much, commissioners, for being here. So my name's Angel Navales. I'm a chief with the Chicago Police Department, formerly working on the consent decree and now working on our CAPS project. So what I wanted to do today is first start, and rightfully so after the last comments, is to begin by acknowledging the concerns that our community members have when it comes to immigration enforcement. I want to start by saying and strongly saying that the Chicago Police Department has and will always comply with the City of Chicago's welcoming city ordinance. The Chicago Police Department, I say this strongly, does not work with, collaborate, or enforce immigration laws. Right? Community safety and building community trust is our priority. And the reason I say that is because participation between communities and police is incredibly important. So participation and collaboration, once again, I'm going to say it again, is incredibly important. We've worked very hard to build and improve those relationships with our communities. We do not want to see those relationships erode. We don't want our communities to be afraid to report crimes, to come forward as witnesses, and to continue to participate in community engagements. Community participation and information sharing between communities and the Chicago Police Department are key factors in decreasing crime and removing violent offenders, dangerous drugs, and guns off the street. That collaboration between community and police participation, and because of it, we have been able to make communities safer, and we've benefited from this collaboration by decreasing homicides 32.3%, shootings 39.6%, shooting victims have decreased 41.2%, robberies 33.6%, motor vehicle thefts 28.7%, and vehicular hijackings by 50.2%. This is why community engagement, community involvement is important to us as a department. So what I wanted to do is show the slides that's up there with that QR code. If you click on that QR code, it will take you to the Immigrant, Migrant, and Refugee Communities website where you can find our policies and related information as it relates to Chicago's involvement and resources that may be available for folks that are in this position. So to better inform our public, what I wanted to share with you today is one, a strong commitment to adhering to the welcoming city ordinance and provide a high-level overview on our policy. Our policy was drafted in line and in support of the welcoming city ordinance as well as related laws. So for the sake of time, what I'm going to do and to make it easier and make it more digestible, I'm going to break it down into do's and don'ts of our department. So with that, I'm going to begin with the do's. What the department will do in these instances. One, department members will provide police service to all people of the city of Chicago, regardless of their citizenship or immigration status. The department will cooperate with those who report crimes, regardless of whether such report is made by a witness or a victim, and regardless of the citizenship or nation of origin of that reporter. When presentation of an Illinois driver's license or identification card is acceptable, adequate evidence of identity, presentation of a photo identification document issued by a person's nation of origin, such as a driver's license, passport, matricula, will be accepted, and the subject will not be subject to higher levels of scrutiny or different treatment. All right, upon receiving a request, and this is incredibly important, and I talk about this because it goes back to that participation with police. Upon receiving a request for completion of law enforcement certification form statement required by federal immigration law that certifies that a person is a victim of criminal activity, department members will follow the procedures delineated in our policy on T visas and U visas. And that is at the request of the individual that wants us to complete that certification form. And that's so they reap the benefits of those U visas and those T visas. We do not want to hinder that. Now I'm going to move on into the don'ts. And those are the things that are very important to the folks out here and folks in the communities. Department members will not utilize threats of deportation or engage in any verbal abuse of any person based upon the person's or the person's family members' actual or perceived citizenship or immigration status. Department members will not participate in any civil immigration enforcement operation or assist the civil enforcement of federal immigration laws. We will not enforce immigration laws. The only exception to this is this does not preclude department members from responding or taking police action should a contemporaneous public safety concern arises. right? If there is a hazard that is created, if there is a demonstration and there are folks out in the street, we will conduct traffic control because we do not want to see anybody participating get injured. An example of that, I'm going to reference the news reports when an individual drove through a crowd of protesters downtown. We do not want to see that happen. Further, the department will not enter into any agreement under subsection 1357G of Title 8 of the United States Code or any provision of federal law that permits state or local government entities to enforce federal civil immigration law. The department will not enter or renew any agreement providing direct access to any electronic database or database sharing platform maintained by the department or otherwise provide direct access to such database to any federal agencies if the department determines that it's being used for the purpose of enforcement of civil immigration laws. Department members will not stop, arrest, or continue to detain a person solely on the belief that that person has committed a civil immigration violation or is not legally present in the United States. We do not enforce immigration law. Based upon an administrative warrant or based on an immigration retainer, we will not detain those individuals and we will not detain them further. We will not prolong a detainment because of that. Department members will not permit immigration agents access to persons detained by or in custody, the department or department members, including by telephone. We will not permit immigration agencies to use our facilities for investigative interviews or other investigative purposes. We will not expend time responding to any immigration agency's inquiries or communication with an immigration agency regarding an individual's time in custody, release date, or contact information. Once again, the only time that we would release anything like that is at the request of the individual for the purpose of the form, so they are eligible for a T or U visa. Our department will not transfer any person into the custody of ICE for the sole purpose of civil immigration enforcement. We will not request, maintain, or share citizen or immigration status of any person unless that disclosure comes authorized in writing from that individual. And once again, that's for the purpose of T and U visas. So, the department will not set traffic perimeters. They will not provide on-site support to assist civil immigration enforcement in any immigration enforcement operation. Once again, that does not preclude department members from responding and taking police action during contemporaneous public safety concerns. Once again, I refer back to the initial statement of what happened during the protest when the individual drove through the protest. Now, one of the things that I wanted to touch on, and I know it's incredibly confusing for community members because we all wear uniforms, right? I can't comment on what the policy is that the federal government has put in place in regards to individuals not being identifiable or wearing masks. But what I can tell you is that the Chicago Police Department requires our officers to have their name tags affixed to their uniforms, their police star visible, their star number unobstructed, and not wearing a mask. Also, while on field duties, our officers are required to have a body-worn camera. Right? We are proud of our department's relationship with our communities, and I'm going to say this again, we do not want to erode that. So as always, if you have an encounter with the Chicago Police Department where you feel that it was a violation of this or any other policy, the avenue to file a complaint is through the Civilian Office of Police Accountability, or COPA, or request a supervisor to respond on scene to generate that complaint log. Also, you can lodge a complaint online. Question that I get a lot is complaints pertaining to federal agencies should be directed to the encountered agency or reach out to your local, your corresponding consulate office that will help you navigate through that process. I want to end by saying this. The Chicago Police Department, and I'm going to say this again, will always comply with the City of Chicago's welcoming city ordinances. The Chicago Police Department does not work with, collaborate, or enforce immigration laws. Thank you very much. And if the group has any questions?
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions from commissioners?
I have a question.
Sure.
Sorry, let me move this closer. Hello, Chief. It's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for coming here today to clarify the department's responsibility and role in maintaining public safety in Chicago. You mentioned a couple incidents where public safety came of mind. I wanted to ask you about the incidents involving ICE agents and a couple members of city council, as well as a crowd outside of a South Loop office. You mentioned that CPD does not assist with perimeters or barricades or anything like that for ICE enforcement activities. Did I hear that correctly?
That is correct. The only caveat is if there is a contemporaneous public safety issue. What you're talking about is the incident that occurred at the 2200 block of South Michigan. You know, there was two calls for assist an officer, which initiated that response. Officers arrived without knowledge of immigration enforcement occurring at that location. Immigration does not share with us where they're operating, where they're conducting their investigations or where they're going to collect folks. So we were unaware that that's what they were responding to. CPD was on site to ensure that all the folks that were there, that there was safety involved. And as that demonstration poured onto the streets, we felt important for the safety of everybody involved that we blocked traffic. It was raining out and we wanted to make sure that no one was hurt. But we were not there to assist or enforce any kind of immigration law.
Thank you for clarifying that. I have a couple more questions, but in regards to, I've seen in Philadelphia, somebody impersonated a federal enforcement agent, and that's deeply troubling. If and when a complaint ever comes into CPD about people impersonating law enforcement concerning to immigration, who at CPD would investigate something like that if
Well-
somebody were to report that?
At any time where a law enforcement officer shows up at your house and you're unable to identify who that individual is, you can call CPD to respond, to attempt to verify the identification of that individual. Once again, we're not there to enforce if they're a legitimate agency, to assist them in enforcing that. But we understand that people out there are afraid and they're unsure. And if it would help calling us to go out there to verify the best that we possibly can, that they're a legitimate agency, you know, they can call us. And as far as filing a complaint, if there is a determination what that is, or if you believe it might have been a police impersonator, when it comes to a belief of police impersonator, please lodge a complaint with COPA and COPA will investigate that.
In terms of data sharing, I was also reading in different municipalities, counties, and states about data sharing with license plate readers. Have we heard that concern with the Chicago Police Department sharing license plate reader data? Can you kind of just clarify and repeat again what the data sharing aspect looks like?
Yes, actually, I'll refer back to my initial statement. I'm unaware of any instances where we're sharing license plate information. So that is something that I could give you a response, submit a response to the commission for. But like I said earlier, that we do not share the use of our databases, access to our databases to federal agencies for the purpose of enforcing immigration law.
Thank you, Chief Navalez. I have a lot more questions, but I want to yield some time to my other commissioners. I want to thank your team for being readily available when we needed information to share that with stakeholders across the city about CPD policy. So I want to thank you on that. And I sincerely hope the entire office that's doing this work. I think it's 3 officers. I've spoken to 2 officers
Yeah.
and great.
So we
Great
have
officers there.
3 officers in the main office, but every district office has an affinity officer. whose job it is to work with marginalized communities to help increase the participation with the Chicago Police Department. They as well, any information that they may need, our liaisons at the headquarters will ensure that they have to get out to members of the community.
Are there any other questions from any other commissioners?
So Chief Navales, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I know that there are people who are concerned about kind of these issues. So I think it's really great that you're here to help provide some clarification. So I had a question about, I think about 2 weeks ago, there was an article in the Chicago Sun-Times that mentioned that there were at least some instances where records had been shared with federal enforcement around it with ICE. So I was just curious about like what circumstances are you able to share? Will you like, does CPD share records and like what are those parameters around?
When it comes to immigration enforcement, we do not share records.
Okay, so I'm not, okay, so nothing about immigration enforcement, but are there? Okay, so I guess the way it was worded was that there were like some records that were shared, maybe not specific to immigration, but they were specific to immigrants. So I guess I'm just curious. So just if it's an issue specific to immigration, you won't share the records, but if it's an issue to something else, CPD might share the records?
So I would actually, if I can get back to you with a response, I could send it to the commission, because I'm not familiar with that. It's not, something that I would know offhand. When I know that when it comes to immigration enforcement, we do not share information. Now, the Chicago Police Department does have federal joint task forces, and they are scoped specifically. For example, if our Bureau of Counterterrorism is working with DEA, the focus will be strictly on narcotics. They're working with ATF. It's strictly on illegal guns. It is not for immigration enforcement. And even if we believe that it was for immigration enforcement, we would not share.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
I also would love to learn a little bit more about the affinity officers. Can you just tell us a little bit more about the scope of work and how can community members learn a little bit more about them?
Oh, absolutely. I'll answer the first, I'll break it up into two, but I'll answer the latter first. So our affinity officers, at any time you want any information on the affinity officers, feel free to call our office. I'll give you my contact information and our deputy director. There will be more than happy to walk you through what that program was. Now, the affinity officer was a position that was created. It is in the consent decree. And the idea behind the affinity officer was to have someone in districts to seek out communities that are in the fringes that don't necessarily have a good relationship with the police, or they're forgotten communities, let's say, for the lack of a better term. And those folks deserve the same kind of law enforcement service that everybody else does, whether it's to build relationships with them, to bring them into the fold, to ensure that they are provided police service, whether they are to be provided resources to help them out. We wanted to have someone in every district tasked with that. Now, the reason we put them in every district is because every district is unique and the needs for every district are different. They are guided by the main office, and we will have other liaisons such as the LGBTQ liaisons, our unhoused liaison, our immigrant and refugee liaisons to provide that knowledge and support to whatever it is that they're dealing with within the districts.
And what level of collaboration does the affinity officers have with the Victim Services Office?
Oh, they actually have very, very close relationships with them. So now we have, our crime victims advocates, we have our domestic violence advocates, and depending on what is the need of the individuals encountered by those affinity officers, they will reach back and collaborate to attempt to address that issue based on those scopes, whether it's domestic violence, crime victims advocates, whether it's need for help with the unhoused, they will reach back and they will collaborate.
Well, thank you so much. And I really thank you for your commitment and the department's commitment to continuing to enforce and comply with the Welcome City ordinance. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. So now we will go back to the mayor's office. As we enter the summer, it's important that the city knows what, if any, plans the department and the mayor have for keeping Chicago safe. CCPSA was made aware of a summer safety plan that the department and the mayor's office have developed, and they are here today to present on this plan. To present on this, I'd like to call Manuel Whitfield, who I was told is here now. Where?
Doing today?
Wonderful.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. I apologize.
No, I just said,
No, we're good to go. We're waiting on you.
are we just supposed to answer the questions? I know you all
I
sent
thought
us.
there was a presentation. There's some. Is there no presentation? You don't have a presentation?
No, we don't have a presentation.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about the summer safety plan?
1,000%. We can just go through the questions. We can just roll them off and we can answer those. For everyone's awareness, sorry for the delay. It was a lot of traffic for us getting over here, coming from downtown. My name is Manuel Whitfield. You can call me Manny. I'm the Director of Violence Prevention and Community Safety for the Mayor's Office of Community Safety.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Sanford. Also, I'm the first deputy of the Mayor's Office of Community Safety as well. Nice to meet you.
So our summer safety strategy is, the foundation of it is the People's Plan for Community Safety. For those of you who are looking to actually view this People's Plan for Community Safety, you can actually go to Google and type in People's Plan for Community Safety, City of Chicago, and it'll come right up. It is designed and based off of a quality of life plan that many neighborhoods have created. We modeled it after that. So it's 9 pillars and 18 initiatives. Those 9 pillars are essentially the foundation to how we are trying to address some of the root causes of violence. I would say, looking at the People's Plan for Community Safety, it is a plan that addresses operational barriers that have prohibited individuals in the city of Chicago from accessing different city services and resources. So the really purpose of the goal is to how can we kind of navigate and remove a lot of those barriers. Violence is it's a disciplinary topic, so you can't talk about violence without talking about things like education, housing, adults of highest promise, youth of highest promise, also food insecurity, all of these different elements. So essentially our strategy at the foundation of it is based off of that. We do understand that this is a layering approach. So in addition to the People's Plan for Community Safety, we meet with the Mayor's Office Cabinet once a month. And for those of you who don't know what the Mayor's Office Cabinet is, the Mayor's Office Cabinet is a combination of all departments and agencies heads that come to the Mayor's Office. And what we do is we essentially discuss different strategies and implementation that happens across the city. One thing that we had our different departments and agencies do last year, and we continue that this year, was to develop a summer safety toolkit. So we essentially sent them over a template that broke down what their preventative strategies was and then what their rapid response strategy was. This was essentially with the intent of figuring out how we can figure out how each of our departments and agencies centrally focus on safety. In addition to that, we've rolled out a series of other initiatives. For example, Take Back the Block. Many of you may have seen some media around that. Essentially, what we do is we partner with departments and agencies, and we go to some of our blocks that are of highest promise. And when I'm using the language highest promise, it's because we try to be really intentional to not call neighborhoods and people at risk. We want to make sure that we're recognizing people as assets and not liabilities. So Take Back the Block, we did 6 of those activations last year, in which we brought the full force of government to these blocks. And it's essentially a huge block party where individuals from that block get to interact and ask questions to different departments and agencies, have access to services. We have had video game trucks out there. We've had bouncy houses. We really want it to be a fun thing for people to engage in, but also it's an opportunity for us to survey the area and figure out what different infrastructure needs have not been addressed, have been long-standing, and we are able to address those needs, particularly in that time. When we do any of our Take Back the Blocks, we partner with the community-based organizations that's within the area to get the word out. We also are partnering with the automatic offices. Anybody that wants to work with us, we're always open and willing. The next initiative that we just recently rolled out was called Late Night Basketball, and that is from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. We are essentially focusing it this summer on the 4 major holidays that we've seen historical high rates of violence happen. So that's Memorial Day, we kicked it off. Father's Day was the next one, July 4th weekend, and then the last one will be on Labor Day. And when we first started this in Memorial Day, we launched it in 2 locations. So we did Malcolm X College and Washington Park. And this is a collaboration again between the Mayor's Office of Community Safety, city colleges, and parks, and the CDPH. We also, this current July 4th that's coming up, as well as Labor Day, we're expanding to 2 more additional locations. So it'll be Truman College and then what's the park? I'm blanking on the other one, but it's a park district in Inglewood. We just made some changes and modifications recently. Lindblom Park, there it goes. So we'll have essentially 4 sites running, again, from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. It's 18 and older. Again, really focusing on those youth and adults of highest promise, making sure that we activate on both Friday and Saturday. So folks have the opportunity to come, and we partner with community-based organizations that have a historical knowledge on doing late night basketball. Another initiative that we've been rolling out and been doing is called gun safety awareness workshops. We're doing those all across the cities. That is a partnership with, again, different community-based organizations as well as libraries to basically talk about gun safety awareness, as well as Lurie Children's Hospital, and what happens here is we are providing people with gun safety awareness. So we're giving them gun safety locks, but then we're also talking about stop the bleed, hands-on CPR and Narcan training. I think it's unrealistic to think that we're going to remove every single last gun off the street, and we know that guns are here. So how can we make sure that people, if they have a gun, at least be safe about how they are navigating with the gun? We've seen way too many young children have access to guns and actually shoot their sibling or a friend or even themselves, which could be fatal at times. So how can we be as preventative as possible?
Thank you. Are there any questions from commissioners?
Thank you so much for being here today. For the Take Back the Blocks, are there any opportunities for engagement for district counselors to be part of that? And if not, is there a way to make that happen?
No, absolutely, absolutely. You all can, any district counselor can participate. You as commissioners can participate. Again, nothing is off the table. I can make sure that you have the dates for the next Take Back the Blocks. Actually, I'll tell you right now, July 11th, July 18th, and then August 29th. Locations have not been determined yet because we kind of assess that based off of data. We kind of look at which one of our community areas needs a little bit more attention, and that's citywide, right? Obviously, we tend to do a lot of our Take Back the Blocks on the south and west side because those communities have experienced historic disinvestment, and we are seeing higher rates of crime happen in those communities, at least over the years. However, crime is down. Y'all did not know. We've definitely had a phenomenal year. We are trending down faster than New York and LA right now. So I'll share some of those numbers a little bit later with you all.
Thank you.
I have a question as well. 2, actually. The first question is about working with district counselors. So I think they bring a lot of value to try to alleviate some public safety issues. And I feel like there's a lot of good information that the city has and resources that can be coordinated better with district counselors. Has that ever been evaluated or looked at on how resources can be shared, information can be shared with district counselors who do hold monthly meetings and people attend them and people like going to the meetings. I've been to many. And so I know it's new and, there's a lot of things that need to be figured out. But in what ways can we collaborate with our district counselors, or in what ways have we collaborated with our district counselors?
That's a good question. So again, I want to reemphasize the fact that we are willing and open to work with anybody. We do our best. The city struggles with the dissemination of information. I'll be the first to say that, right? We are constantly trying to think about ways in which we can get information out. We're not able to always pick up the phone directly and call each single person to give them an individual invite, which I think sometimes, folks would appreciate, but we definitely do our best to send out email correspondence and then definitely communicate with you all as much as possible as we can. But our person on the Mayor's Office Community Safety Team that works directly with district counselors is Alexandra Goodwin, as well as Mallory Harry. And the reason why we have two people is because within the People's Plan for Community Safety, one of our initiatives is policing. And a lot of those initiatives, Mallory oversees, and it does interact with CCPSA and the district counselors.
Thank you. My second question is around resources. I know that last year, resources was a concern in order to have enough officers to staff all the special events in the city, and patrol the streets of the city. I don't know if this is a department question, but in what way has the mayor's office tried to alleviate those concerns of having enough police officers to cover the entire city and the plethora of special events?
Good question. One thing that I can say is, I operate off of the 3 Cs: communication, coordination, and collaboration. We have seen a significant amount of coordination, communication, and collaboration with all of our departments and agencies, specifically our police department. They do not hesitate to say when they need assistance and support. Combined with street outreach and supports from community-based organizations, we are doing our best, which is why we're seeing some of the numbers we're seeing, right? It's a collective effort. It's about layering. So it's not just on the police department. So we do recognize, though, you have qualitative and quantitative, right? So although the numbers say that we're going down, how do people feel, right? And we're working our best to make sure that feelings catch up with what the data is actually saying.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my question is centered around the city department coordination and sort of what that looks like. But on top of that, how is it accessible to communities? Because when I think about this conversation of public safety, and when you look at some of the most impacted communities on the west and south sides, a big issue is overgrown lots and things of that nature, which cause a lot of issues. So how are these resources being coordinated? Sort of what are all the departments, and how can community get some immediate action with things like overgrown lots? Because I think that should be pretty simple to resolve because it does not require our department, but it is a big public safety issue in these neighborhoods.
So, great question. The People's Plan for Community Safety, one of the pillars is called community environment. And that pillar is broken down into 3 initiatives: vacant lots, 311, and safe space access. The 311 portion particularly has brought all of our infrastructure departments together, in which they meet once a month to actually discuss outstanding issues and requests. And the purpose and intent behind this is to make sure that we are actually communicating to the general public through our web platform, through our application, what lead times are going to look like, and making sure in our areas where we know we have some of the most vacant lots in, we're putting additional special attention to that. We also rolled out an RFP last year called the Community Conveners RFP, in which it focused on 4 community areas. And we focus in those particular 4 community areas is East Garfield, Austin, Inglewood, and South Lawndale, also known as Little Village. We focused on those particular community areas because we looked at the data. Those community areas have some of the highest rates of violence. has some of the highest rates of unemployment, also has some of the lowest rates of graduation from college, and then the median income, obviously. So we started our plan off with focusing on some of the areas in the city that needed more special attention. And what we did was with the RFP was say, we understand that we can't be in every single area all the time. So we need a community-based organization that's deeply rooted in that community, that has access and can help us navigate to ensure that when we're not there, they're still funneling information up so that we can direct resources and services that our departments and agencies have to offer to those communities most in need. So the community convener for Inglewood is Teamwork Inglewood. The community convener for East Garfield is Youth Guidance. The community convener for South Lawndale is Beyond the Ball. And then the community convener for Austin is Westside NAACP.
So for the particular issue, because this lot thing is a really big deal for me, how are you coordinating with the departments that are at the table to have some accountability to report that? Because what I see happen often, you have ticketing happening, right, for street cleaning. You have the department probably driving through some of these neighborhoods that may not be a part of your targeted areas, but are still significantly impacted by and plagued by public safety issues. So how are they participating in this beyond someone calling about something? Because at this point, the different departments that engage in community are also seeing, you know, these vacant lots, these overran weeds and trash and all of the things. So how are they at the table engaging in ensuring that these things are being addressed beyond community calling 311?
No, 1,000%. So one thing I'll tell you is that prior to us launching the People's Plan for Community Safety, our infrastructural departments never met collectively as a unit. They now meet collectively as a unit to actually discuss, because I think that sometimes people don't realize that one thing that happens to one department, for example, if CDOT has to go into the ground, right, that also impacts the water department. So they have to communicate, right? And it's not that they weren't communicating before, but they weren't intentionally communicating in a space that allowed us to talk about lead times and how long it's going to take for people to resolve different issues. I mean, tomorrow we could have 10 people retire, right? Which means that that might slow down our ability as a city to address certain concerns. For example, like streets and sanitation. Like, I'm not saying that that's about to happen, but you just never know, right? People are joining the city and people are leaving the city. In retiring from working from the city for years. So we are working our hardest to make sure that we are getting to these requests, particularly in the areas that we know have went unaddressed for years. And, you know, I've seen progress. I've been in government, particularly in the mayor's office, since 2019. So I've seen the intentional investment. I think we're very blessed as a city to have had two mayors back to back that has understood the importance of investment in people, particularly on the South and West Side. And I believe we're starting to see some of our return on investments, which is why we're seeing significant decreases. But what I will say in addition to that is each alderman has a ward superintendent. And that ward superintendent technically works for streets and sanitation. And that ward superintendent should be moving around the community and pointing out and addressing and uplifting to the infrastructure departments what needs to be addressed. So again, it's layering. It's not just on a community resident, even though they should understand how to call 311, how to utilize the web platform, which I encourage everybody to do. If you haven't, please download the 311 app, create an account. Calling is great and you can call for certain things, but when you you create an account, they send you a SR number, which is a service request number that allows you to track the request that you put, which is extremely important. And that's when we talk about accountability. You want to be able to have that service request number. You want to be able to say, well, I put this request in, right? And when that request doesn't get resolved in a timely manner, then it comes to the elevation, right? And in theory, you should be able to elevate that to your automatic office or to the ward superintendent, pending that you know who your alderman is or your ward superintendent is. So it is a layered approach, right? Like, it's our job to be proactive, but we also have put other things in place to ensure that the work doesn't stop.
For the purposes of quorum, all 7 commissioners are now present.
All right, good evening. Thank you for being here. So and I probably missed it, but the gun program that you spoke of. So
Gun safety awareness,
what
gun safety awareness program,
I think it's that gun safety, what?
awareness.
Oh, okay.
Workshop, excuse me. It's the gun safety awareness workshop.
Okay, so that was my first question, the name of it. And then can you just tell, I understand what you're saying, like trying to acknowledge that people have guns. So how does it work? Like who's teaching the
So-
gun safety? And I'll just ask them all together. Who's teaching it? How is it promoted? How, if in any way, are the attendees vetted? And then is there any information in the program kind of about like, not having a gun if you're not supposed to and all that kind of stuff?
1,000%. 1,000%. I want to be very clear. We're not promoting for people to have guns, right? But we also don't want to be naive and think that people don't. Like, we know that people have them. So we're partnering with Lurie Children's Hospital, as well as community-based organizations that are helping to facilitate and bring in individuals from the community area to actually participate in these programs. We're not taking any like information to like track any of these people, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're talking about behavior change, right? A lot of the individuals, some of the questions that people are asking may be common sense to us, but it's not common sense to them. So just bringing them in a space to talk about like firearm safety and the risk of not having your gun stored properly, if you do have a gun in the house, and what it can do to you, but also what it can do to your family members, or even, unfortunately, your children. And, we provide, trauma warning, that we even show videos and stuff like that. But we have a partnership with the state, because they also provide the gun locks for us to distribute. And again, CDPH, we work with them. They provide the Narcan, because we do stop the bleed training. We want people to understand that anything can happen at any given point in time. It's not just about somebody being shot. Somebody could be stabbed. I could pass out right here, right? And hit my head and start bleeding, right? How can we make sure that everybody in here knows how to help me stay alive and survive until I can get the assistance and support that I need? So this is more of an educational thing, not a promotion for guns in any regard.
No, and I wasn't suggesting you were promoting it at all.
No, I didn't think so. I just wanted to double down,
Oh, I guess it's like, and you answered it. You could do both, right? Like acknowledging that maybe people have guns that,
Oh, for sure.
but also, yeah. And then the second question, so the gun lock thing, when we have the shootings, where it's like an unstored gun, I know the department does this, or let me not say the department, but I know that a lot of times either community-based organizations will go around that neighborhood with the gun lock. Do you guys kind of center sometimes the promotion of the program? Promotion's the wrong word, but like the awareness of the program when maybe particular incidents like that happen too, if we, know locally in terms of neighborhoods?
So that's a good question. And here's what I'll say. I have a way more in-depth answer. That's just not about the gun safety awareness program. So yes, CPD has their response, right? And then we also have street outreach that responds, as well as victim service advocates to provide supports for the victims and survivors, the family members, to help them not reach a sense of normalcy, because after you experience something traumatic, you can never return to normalcy, but at least experience some level of comfortability. But then we have something called incident response protocol. And that was rolled out last year. And what that is that's another layering approach to ensure that when certain incidents happen, so a tender age shooting, so if an individual is unfortunately fatally killed and they're under the age of 18, we activate incident response protocol. If there's a mass shooting, 4 or more, we activate the incident response protocol. If there's a police involved shooting or a high profile shooting, we activate the incident response protocol. And we do that all in conjunction with community-based partners, with CPD. And essentially what we do is we center all resources and services to the area that the incident has happened in. Now, the huge important thing is that speaking to community about how to roll out those resources and services. We don't want to just throw them out there and just to say, hey, we did this, just as a check off the box, but it's actually having intentional conversations about what it looks like to roll out these resources. How do we help community feel more comfortable? How do we utilize this as an opportunity to help people understand what's accessible to them? Unfortunately, sometimes intervention has to happen for prevention methods to happen. And incident response protocol has yielded a lot of positivity for us. We coordinate with the alderperson's office to make sure that they have a list of things that we do. So to your question, gun safety awareness is formed into that overall coordinated response. It just depends on the circumstances of the particular incident and how we promote and push that.
Great, thank you.
Love to ask a question to the point of youth programming. So I really love that you all are doing late night basketball, and I've seen a few other organizations also jump in and provide that service. I'm wondering a few things as it relates to youth and youth safety. One, do you have a youth advisory board?
Yep, we have the Mayor's Youth Commission.
Huh?
The Mayor's Youth Commission.
Okay. Two, I want to know what does late night programming look like for young girls? I noticed that when there are late night basketball, sometimes the young girls come just to like hang out with their peers, but there's not really a lot for them to do. So I'm wondering what engagement look like for them.
So what I'll tell you is that we haven't tailored our program to a specific gender at all. But we are focusing on the 18 and older crowd for a reason, because it is starting at 9 p.m. We don't want to encourage youth to be out past a time that they shouldn't be, even though we do acknowledge youth is up to the age of 24, but 17 and under actually puts them more at risk being out during those times. So I will say, though, we have had a lot of women participation come to our late night basketball, and we have a lot of volunteers that are there. Like we feed folks. We have CPD partners with us. CPD actually is rolling out an actual team that will be participating as a way to engage and build community, right? A lot of these individuals only see police officers in uniform. So how do we show them that they human beings just like you? They play basketball, like they enjoy the same things, they enjoy the same food as you. So they'll be participating in that. But it is a thought to think about, right? Like, how do we begin to think about different programming for specific affinity groups?
And I also kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about the community conveners.
Mhm.
Just like, one, I want to know, do they rotate out? Two, if an organization wanted to be a part of the community conveners program, what does that look like? What steps do they need to take? And while we have the current community conveners, what does collaboration and sponsorship look like for organizations outside of those community conveners, but still want to be involved with the mayor's office and do the work?
So this is our first time doing an RFP like this. So they won't rotate out, right? We had it this year. Obviously, like the success of this, like we want to get this back into the budget so we can do it next year. Because it is important work, having an anchor organization that community partners are familiar with. The community conveners are called community conveners because it's their job to convene the people within the community. That is their sole job, right? And it's us as a city, right, to help empower them to have access to the resources and services that they need to ensure that they're getting information to the community. So none of our community conveners, the moment you take money from the city, you have to work with everybody. And we have cross collaboration with some of our communities. So what you'll see sometimes is youth guidance and Westside NAACP will collaborate on different things because those community areas are very close together. So anybody can access those community conveners. And I can get you all information on who those points of contact are so that you all have that information accessible to you.
Yeah, and I'm also kind of wondering, what does the channel look like? If a community member wanted to see some kind of programming in their community and they go to a community convener, can they then like kind of have that autonomy with them to kind of workshop programming, or what does the proper channels look like?
No, that is essentially what they should be doing, right?
Okay.
Obviously, like if an organization comes and say, "Hey, can you pay for this?" The community convener may not have the ability to pay for it, but what we're trying to help community do is establish an ecosystem where they are working collectively with one another on a regular basis, how they're developing their own safety strategies, right? It's the city's job to support communities' needs, right? Which I think I speak highly of quality of life plans because it really is an outline to what that particular community needs. And as a city, we should be working closely with those quality of life plan anchor organizations to make that assessment on how the city best plugs into that, right? Many of these plans sometimes have not been built with the lens on what is intergovernment affairs, right? How do you fuse government? Like it's these big, bold ideas, which I think is amazing. But there is a point in which we have to operationalize those things. We have to think about the sustainability of those things, which right now I would say that with our community conveners, we're navigating that process, right? We want folks to have autonomy. Even past this administration, folks should understand how to access city services and resources. They should understand what Department of Streets and Sanitation does. They should understand what the Office of Emergency Management and Communication does, right? They should understand what the Department of Building does. So we get questions on a variety of things, and if our community convener doesn't know the answer, they have us as a resource to communicate and interact. We also have an element that we utilize as our operational arm in the Mayor's Office of Community Safety called the Community Safety Coordination Center, also known as the CSCC, which is housed in the Department of Public Health. They have been around since the Lightfoot administration. We have now continued that work on and even built more on top of it, right? So the Community Safety Coordination Center has supported a numerous amount of organizations across the city with activations, right? Understanding how to apply for permits, right? Figuring out ways in which they may not have the money, but we may know partners that do have the money. And we also have been able to leverage some of the ARPA dollars before it runs out to actually support with certain things like tables, chairs, and tents, right, to alleviate some of the costs. It's obviously a lot more challenging to pay for food when you're talking about city money, but if you can pay for some of those other expenses, it does free up funds for people to be able to access and be able to do better programming.
The last question I have,
Wait,
I just want to.
Before you go, we are getting tight on time. So if you can make your question brief, and please make your responses brief also, and concise, so that.
I'm doing my best, my bad.
I got you. Just.
Absolutely. I just want to know about the mechanism of accountability, like what does tracking look like? And what are the engagement expectations for the community conveners? That's all. Thank you.
So we meet with all of our community conveners every other week. They have direct access to me. Think about me as the front office portion, so I'm helping them think through strategy and on the ground stuff. And then CDPH, which this RFP came out of, because the mayor's office doesn't have procurement authority. They are the back office, so they handle all the admin things, making sure that the community convener is following the scope of work.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you answering our questions and presenting today.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
to go. I mean,
Sorry.
closing remarks, that works as well.
No, sorry we didn't have a presentation. We'll make sure that we get some information over for you. And we'll also make sure that we pull a short presentation together that kind of highlights some of this information, because we actually do have one. Now that I'm thinking over the top of my head, we'll get it over to you at least before midweek. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next order of business will be reports and updates. We'll begin by discussing working group updates. First, there'll be an update from Commissioner Terry of the COPA Search Working Group.
So if you're not new here, you're aware that the commission is currently in the process of gathering input to inform our search process for the COPA Chief Administrator. The Civilian Office of Police Accountability, or COPA, is one of Chicago's oversight agencies that has a substantial mandate. COPA is responsible for many things, including conducting certain investigations related to the actions of the Chicago Police Department, including complaints regarding domestic violence and sexual assault, some incidents where police officers use a weapon, all officer-involved deaths, incidents where individuals die in police custody, patterns and practice of police misconduct, amongst other important functions. The person who runs the agency is the chief administrator, and the chief administrator of COPA resigned back in February, and so we are on the search for a replacement. This replacement will be with the advice and consent of the city council. The chief administrator is responsible for managing a professional staff of around 140 employees, including investigators, supervisors, lawyers, etc. The law lays out the minimum requirements that the COPA chief must meet to qualify for appointment. The minimum requirements are an attorney with substantial experience in criminal, civil rights, and/or labor law, or corporate and/or governmental investigations, or an individual with substantial experience in law enforcement oversight or investigating employee or other wrongdoing. knowledge of law enforcement, particularly of internal investigations of wrongdoing and use of force, a commitment to and knowledge of the need for and responsibilities of law enforcement, as well as the need to protect basic constitutional rights for the affected parties, demonstrated integrity, professionalism, sound judgment, leadership, and the ability to work with diverse groups and individuals. The commission is seeking public input on the qualifications that you would like for the COPA chief to have beyond the minimums. The commission will be using this input along with input from the subject matter experts, community organizations, COPA employees, CPD members, and other sources to develop the application, interview questions, and to inform the next selection of the COPA chief. To date, the commission has conducted 4 public listening sessions, which occurred on all parts of the city as well as virtually. As you've entered the meeting today, you were giving information about this particular search, and we do implore you to participate in the survey, share with a few of your friends and family members as we want to hear from them. As part of our engagement process, the commission is also required to retain a search firm to assist with a national search for the COPA chief administrator. We're in the process of vetting firms and will provide more information as it becomes available. Once we finalize the search firm, we will have a clearer timeline to share.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Next, we'll move on to hear from Commissioner Wortham with an update related to traffic stops.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Good evening again, everyone. So on April 21st, the city of Chicago submitted 2 versions of a draft traffic stop policy to the Attorney General, the Illinois Attorney General, and the independent monitor of the consent decree between the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. One version was from the Chicago Police Department. One version was from this commission. The 2 versions are similar in a lot of ways. And different in 2 major ways, with language on 2 major issues for which the majority, not all, of commissioners support differing language than that which is in the commission version than that which is in the department's version. And again, both of those documents are available online for the public's review and feedback. So please do, if you have not already, go look and give your feedback. These policies, okay, we're gonna go to this. So as many of you may know, the independent monitor of the consent decree has recommended to the judge overseeing the consent decree that traffic stops by the Chicago Police Department be added into the consent decree. Doing so would mean that changes to CPD's traffic stop policy would be made through the procedures already established in the consent decree. And they would be overseen by the independent monitor and the federal judge in the case overseeing the consent decree. The commission intends to continue to work with CPD, the Illinois Attorney General's office, and the independent monitor to try to come up with an agreement about a traffic stop policy. As is currently, this commission has policy-making authority for traffic stop policies with the Chicago Police Department. So as we continue to work with the Chicago Police Department, and the city's Department of Law, we're trying to ensure that if traffic stops are added to the consent decree, that we would maintain the authority and the ability to participate meaningfully in the work of creating a traffic stop policy for the department. Earlier this month, the commission held a webinar on traffic stops. That's available online for your review if you'd like to go review it, and it'll have additional information. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wortham. Are there any questions on this topic? Hearing none, and there being no further business before the commission's next regularly scheduled meeting will be Thursday, July 31st, 2025, at 6:30 p.m. at the JLM Abundant Life Community Center. I'd like to thank all of you all for joining us tonight. We hope to see you on July 31st. Please follow the commission on all of our social media platforms, and there being no further business before the commission, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.